Did you know that there is one thing above all else, in my opinion, that is ruining your art experience and your mental health? I can say that, I'm a therapist. So if you want to know what that one thing is, that if you were to change it would transform your art experience and hopefully boost your mood, maybe lower your anxiety, all those things. Keep watching, we're gonna get to it in just a moment. But just as a heads up, we'll be painting this together today, so grab your watercolor paints and your supplies and let's get to it. So just a few things as we're starting. I am using these beautiful, this floral paint palette by Rubens. They generously gifted that to me. And we're just playing around with it, testing it out to see. You can see some really gorgeous colors. We're gonna spray them down. If you're interested in looking at the palette on Amazon, you can click the link in the description to check it out or to purchase it. And let's just see how we like those colors. Ooh, some of these pinks are just calling my name. Okay, I'm really excited. I haven't tried this yet. That's why it's super clean. I've got my 9x12 paper. I have taped it down just so that we can have a really beautiful border. When we're done, I've got my 2 water jars, one for warm colors, one for cool. When we mix all the colors, we get muddy water, and that makes our colors less vibrant. And then I've got a variety of brushes here, a number 12, a number 8 round, a number 2. This liner is here in case I want to do some fun line details, but we'll see what we use today. And then last but not least, I've got a paper towel for dabbing. So I do want to show you the reference photo I'm using from Pinterest. It's just, again, like I usually do, for just a reference for me to be able to kind of go off and do my own thing. So let's get to it. I know you are here to hear about the number one thing that is holding you back in your art and also your mental health, or might be ruining your experience. So I'll be sharing that with you very soon. We're gonna go ahead and get started though with all the things we're doing today. And I'm just situating my reference photo here. So I like to start with the middle of the flowers. This painting is really fun because it's just kind of blooming up from here and then leaving a lot of white space, not filling the page. So I'm gonna start with my number 8 round, get that wet, and I'm gonna start making some of the centers of my florals. I'm just testing some colors here. Oof, that's a really nice green, look at that. That's very nice, it's muted, but yet kind of bright with the yellow. I would go ahead and just get your colors ready. So just put them on your palette. If there's any greens that you wanna use, that's really nice and evergreen. I'm thinking this one's gonna be a little too blue for me today, so I'm not gonna, I might use it, but right now I'm not feeling it. So I'm making sure to keep my brush really clean. And these beautiful, bright, pinky colors are really calling to me, especially that fluorescent. I'm gonna put that on the palette, that's really nice. So that we can see what we're working with. And then this one here too. So nice. So I am going to use some of the blues. There's some purples here that are beautiful. This is mixed with white. This one's mixed with white. You can tell they're just more opaque. Now I'm going to start with the centers of my flowers. So I'm going to go with this one for now, for this one over here. So I'm just going to put in, dab my brush to take off all of that extra puddle. And then I'm just going to put in some little brush strokes here for the center. I like to start with my middle. I always regret it when I start with the petals. It just, honestly, if you're a beginner especially and you find this to be challenging, it gives you a place to then gather the petals around, and you don't have to figure out, well, did I leave enough white space, or am I in a bad space? I didn't leave enough white space. It can be a whole thing. So then there's another one. There's a lot of side-facing flowers. So this is one of them, but you can see a bit of the middle. So side-facing, meaning we probably won't really see a lot of that middle for some of them. Okay, so we've got 3 middles we're putting in there for now. And then I'm gonna take my giant brush, and as I'm getting that ready with some paint, let's go ahead and use maybe some orange. Oh, some beautiful colors here. This one is calling my name right now. So as we're getting this ready, what is the number one thing that is holding you back, that is ruining your art experience, your art, and your mental health? Guys, it is perfectionism, okay? So I'm going to talk more about this, but let's go ahead and do some swoopy petals. Swooping in. I'm not loving that color for this. I thought it was more orangey. It's more red. So I'm actually going to take some orange and I'm going to add that in. So we can augment our colors if we want to, okay? There's a lot of things happening here. I'm actually going to extend these out more. And we're just swooping around. We're taking these beautiful floral colors and we're adding in these really large floral marks. Now, I'm not touching the center on purpose because I don't want to disturb it. If you do touch it, it's okay, but we're going to clean up that middle later anyway. And so we'll add more around there. So you don't have to just cover that up right now, but you can see that I am using these long brush strokes to make these swoopy marks here. It's going to be a very large flower, kind of that focal point in our piece. So let's talk about what perfectionism is. Perfectionism is a form of anxiety. And as a mental health professional, I see this all the time. I actually experience a lot of anxiety myself. It's this idea that we need to do things perfectly. So let's just talk about it when it comes to your art. So if you are doing this, you might be sitting here painting with me and you're thinking, okay, I'm not loving how this is coming out. Oh, this is looking kind of weird. Oh, I don't like the color. I'm actually going to take off some of the paint too. Let's just play with that. So clean, damp brush, and you can just go ahead and like remove some of that paint, clean your brush, dab, try it again over here for just some interesting lightening of the value of this paint. So your brain will be telling you you're not doing a good job, it doesn't look perfect, or maybe you want it to look like mine, it's not looking like mine. And then you're going to get down on yourself and worried about the final result or the final product. I don't want you to do that. Okay? But it is something that we do. We want things to be a certain way. I'm just going to add in a little bit of orange here just for fun. See if we can add a little variation in the color. Why not? Okay, so we have a giant flower. Just going to let her be right there. We're going to start adding in some other florals and the colors there. So I've got this beautiful pink here. I've got this pink, pinky purple, and this one too. I'm just going to go a little bit lighter, so that means you add more water. And I'm going to start swooping some petals around here. And it's okay if they touch. I actually would prefer that. It's watercolor, and petals need to intermingle and bleed. That's totally fine. Okay, but let's continue with our discussion of perfectionism. So this anxiety that you must do everything right, and then when something doesn't turn out perfect, how you wanted it to be, guess what happens? It creates more anxiety for you. We're going to do this yellow. This is a pretty color. And so you can see how wanting to strive to paint exactly like how I'm painting or how you envisioned it to be, and then it's not looking how you wanted, then you can get really down on yourself and it causes you to want to give up, right? Does it encourage you to keep trying? I would argue that it doesn't. And so then it makes you very upset. It kind of ruins your experience. It ruins the result that you have. And then it makes you want to not really try next time. So perfectionism really should not have a place in our art. I'm going to add in a little bit more color here. All right, we're going to add in some side-facing blooms now. I am going to grab some other colors. So I've got this beautiful cobalt blue. So we're going to get into that color right now. So then what can you do about it if you are wanting to do perfect things? Because again, if you are living your life like that, trying to paint perfectly, you're not going to appreciate the things you're doing. As a beginner, you're going to have a huge learning curve too. And even as you continue in your journey, it's not going to always turn out how you want, especially when you're doing new things. And so you don't want to get to a point where you're just frustrated with your work. That's not going to help you. It's not going to serve you in any way. And it really keeps you from growing and enjoying the process. Does that make sense? I hope that's speaking volumes to you. So then what can you do about it? And the other part of it is too, we're talking about our art, but also when it comes to our mental health. If we want to do everything perfectly in our lives, in our relationships, let's add a little pink in here and see what happens. And then it's not turning out how we want it to turn out. We can get really, really discouraged. Maybe the relationship we have, our significant other, there's just a lot of flaws there, things that frustrate us. Maybe we're not doing things the way that we think we need to. And guess what? We're going to make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes. So how do you deal with the mistakes? How can you say, it's okay, we're learning and we're growing? So that's where we change the narrative. I'm going to grab a smaller brush. I'm going to start adding in just some leaves and some stems. I really love this green here. It's wonderful for florals. So the story in your head, what are you telling yourself? So let's start with the art. When you are painting right now, what are you saying? Are you thinking, oh, this looks terrible. Oh, I hate how this is turning out. Are you thinking, hey, this is pretty cool. I'm learning something new I've never done before. Are you encouraging yourself? If you're not encouraging yourself, then start. You can start to think about what is going well. What do you like about your painting? I'm sitting here thinking about the painting as well, and I'm like, there are things that I would have done differently, or maybe I don't love this certain color or that certain color. And then I have to stop myself and be like, you know what? The painting is not even done. Like, we need to just relax and continue and see where it goes. How is this going to turn out? Okay? So stick with it. And then just rewrite your expectations. We're just going to put in some very loose leaves here with this to fill in some of the white space. Loosen your expectations about what you think this is going to be like. Have you painted something like this before? If you haven't, congratulations. This is a new thing for you. And you're going to learn from it. You can either learn from it, learn a valuable lesson of like, okay, this is how I like to paint. This is how I don't like to paint. Or you can learn in your head, I'm a terrible artist. I never want to do this again. So those are the two, it's kind of the extreme options that you have to choose from. What are you going to choose? Add some longer leaves here. And it's really it's all a learning process, right? So also another thing I would say is to make mistakes on purpose. I know that sounds weird, but allow yourself to make a mistake and then tell yourself, oh, that's fine. I've just learned something. I don't want to do that again. I don't like how that looks. Next time I won't do that. But it takes away that pressure. Let's use this beautiful green color too. It takes away the pressure if you can say, actually, side note, doing two things at once, but add a little bit of the red to that to just calm it down because it's pretty intense. Now that looks like brown. It's a pretty intense color, and I didn't want it to be so bright. So I just added a little bit of red, and that is a really beautiful green. That's exactly what I wanted, a little stem. Okay? So, when you are not making mistakes, that means you are not trying new things. Does that make sense? Hopefully that resonates with you in some way. When we make mistakes, it's because we're doing something new, and you can congratulate yourself. So I just want you to rethink how perfectionism is controlling your life, and if you're ready to give it up. It's just practice, you guys. We're practicing, we are learning learning new things. And don't be so hard on yourself. If this is the first time you've done something like this, pat yourself on the back. If it's the 1000th time you've done it, guess what? It's going to be a little bit easier this time than it was last time. Little baby steps. What are you learning today? So this can be applied to your actual life as well, not just your painting life. If you're in your job, what are the things that you've been learning and growing from? What are the things that you need to continue to work on? Have you had a review from your boss and did it not go well? Well, how can you tell yourself it's okay? I've got things that I can work on. Can you reach out to somebody and say, hey, you know what? That review told me a lot about myself. What else can I work on? How can I improve and be much better at my job? All right, so it's either learning and saying I can grow from this, or it's saying I'm the worst, I can never do anything right. Does that make sense? It's a big difference in that, in how you walk away based on how you're relating to what's going on. So remember that I'm better now than I was yesterday as you're practicing. So we're gonna dry this and then we're gonna start adding in some of the darker details on top. Alrighty, so some of our leaves are still wet and that's fine. I just wanted to start working on the flowers themselves. So you can see, look at this, there's some granulation. You can see some texture in this specific color. It's kind of cool. Alrighty, so I'm gonna take my number 8 round, make sure that it's pretty clean. And what I want to do is go over the top with some darker versions of the colors that we've used. So I've got the cobalt blue. It's not a very dark blue, but I also want to see what other options we have here for blues. Oh, that's a purple. Ooh, that's nice. We've got some blues over here. That's a beautiful blue. There's so much in this palette. That looks like an ultramarine. And this one might be, what is this? Oh, that's pretty. That's really nice. I'm thinking I'm gonna go for this one here. And maybe just a combination of some things. So we're using more concentrated paint, okay? And we're dabbing our brush so we don't get a puddle. And then we're just simply going to make some kind of quick marks around this floral to add in some little details. And so the idea of adding in some darker marks is to add in some depth and some interest into your floral painting so that you just have a little bit more than just a flat color. You're allowing it to pop off the page. And for this pink one, I'm actually just gonna go really, let me see, I'm gonna go bright. Yeah, let's go with the bright. So we're painting less of the surface base and much more of a concentrated paint color. So less water to the paint ratio. All right, and we don't want a puddle. So then we're gonna dab our brush to take off some of that paint. And I'm actually just gonna go like this so that we can have a little bit more control. So I'm just gonna do a few little sweeping marks all over this little guy. And we can do some like little squigglies to kind of separate some of these petals. Can do darker little marks here. And it's just really using your intuition, your creativity to figure out where you want to place things. But the idea is to get a little bit more of that contrast. Cleaning the brush, how are you doing? I hope that you are enjoying this experience and you're learning a lot from it. I've got this beautiful purpley pink color. And I have to say the paint is quite smooth. It's a joy to work with, so I'm really pleasantly surprised. Not surprised as in, well, I shouldn't say surprised. I'm just happy about it. I've been working with Paul Rubens paints for a couple years now, and I feel like they never disappoint. They're always coming up with something new, which is fun. So this is such a large flower. I do want to darken up the center. And so I just kind of use that side of the brush to create a little bit more that wider, what am I saying? Marks, marks. Otherwise with this round brush, it does have a point on the end. And so you tend to get a little bit of a pointier mark unless you use the side. So I've got that center there. That's kind of cool. I could just leave it like that, or I could outline some of these petals, which I enjoy doing. So maybe some little lines and squiggles and things like that, just for separation between the petals. But yeah. So within this, let's clean our brush, dab it. You're probably thinking about those perfectionist thoughts. The perfectionism creeps in at any time. It's happening to me as well. Like that first layer, I'm always like, okay, where are we going? So I'm just taking that brush and just smoothing some of this out so we have some less harsh lines in some of the petals. And now I've got a lighter value, the lighter color here, the lighter version, going around in some of the spots. And so you can blend some of the color out if you feel like it's too intense or too harsh. It's really up to you. And then we've got the yellow one here. Now with the yellow is not going to get too much darker. So I tend to either mix some orange with my yellow or just go with orange. So we're going to try this, a little bit of a lighter yellowy orange here. And same type of thing. Making sure you've got some nice contrast within this. So this is just, this is the playful part of this. I would say your brain is going to tell you it's wrong or you don't like something. If it does that, if your brain is like mine, which tends to do that, remind your brain, I don't have to be perfect. Just say that. Change the narrative. That's the story. Change the story. You have control over that. And remember that you can always throw this away if you didn't like it, and you could always try again tomorrow with a different piece of paper. You don't have to keep it. You can throw it in the trash. You can let it dry and paint on the other side. You have control. You have options. Isn't that great? It's great. So this one's not going to be too much darker, but just a few quick little marks. I'm satisfied with that. Okay, how are you feeling? I'm feeling like this is a bit weird, blobby, but I can also take a clean, damp brush and I can remove some of that paint, remember? If I feel like there's too much happening. This is called just lifting a little paint. And remember with, with the middles, we will clean those up later. Okay, the last one is this guy right here. It's a large flower, front and center. I am going to focus on the orange. Don't mix the blue with the orange, you'll get a brown. And let's just see what we can do with this. So just doing a little bit of some extra color. So this is a great experimentation as to what do you want to do when it comes to your shadows. And this is also a great time where if you want to practice what I was saying before of like making a mistake on purpose, go for it. You might actually find that you enjoy the marks that you made. And that's a cool little discovery. When you do something new, you often have a chance to learn something about your art, about your likes, your dislikes. So I'm just extending some of these middles out. I feel like that's the thing I want to do today. And yeah, just kind of going with the flow. And I like to check in, how are you doing? If you're feeling frustrated or worried, concerned in any way, just take a deep breath. Okay, remind yourself this is practice. That's all it is. It's just playing with watercolor, like no harm done. How are you feeling now that you've started to add in some more layers? I'm going to get in some more of that beautiful concentrated green, and I'm just going to do some like little lines and dashes and see how I feel about that. Are you feeling better now that you've got that second layer? This is something I can't express enough. I often feel like very vulnerable, very concerned, worried maybe even. When I've put on that first layer of color, it just never looks right. And when I feel nervous like that, I'm assuming that some of you might feel nervous like that as well. So I want to draw your attention to that. Do you feel better now that you've had some time, to add your second layer? Because that's often what we need to do. We need to keep with the painting and not worry about where we're going, because it starts to come together later. And if that's not your experience, that's okay, but I'm just curious if that might be true for some of you out there. It really is kind of a weird thing when you're starting to add the first layer and you don't have the depth and maybe you don't have the experience and you're just like, oof, I don't know how this is gonna turn out anywhere how I'd like it to. But that's where the faith comes in. You just keep going, okay? And that's why people often want to just like throw out a painting way before you've done a lot to it. And I just say, you know what? just finish it and see how you feel about it. You can always throw it out later. Okay, if you need to. So we're gonna do a little splatter. I just decided, let's do the pink. I'm gonna grab some of that reddish water and we're gonna add in just tapping, a little bit of splatter and some of those white spaces. Now I'm gonna dry this and then we'll do our final layer. All right, that final layer of things. We're almost there, you guys. You're making it through. So if you feel like you need to add something else to some of these, you can do that. I'm going to start with my final layer of the centers. So I've got this beautiful dark green, and I think we have black over here. Is that black? That's a brown. Well, anyway, what is this one? Oh yeah, that's the purple. So brown can work too. I just wanted to darken it up a little bit. I don't think there's any black in this palette. And then I'm just gonna go over the center again, just to darken that up. And what I like to do is go as concentrated as possible, and that will give us the darkest color that we could hope for. Okay. So there's my flower. I'm thinking he's looking good. I'm not gonna mess with him. This one certainly needs to be cleaned up a lot, but look at how concentrated this is, so that's not hard at all. And really just kind of covering up the white space that we had left there. And this one too. Oops, wrong one. Still works. So you can see though, hopefully why, do a little circle there, why I love to put the center first. It just makes sure that we're going to reserve that space and not fill it in with petals and then later on be in like a difficult space of, oh no. Sometimes you can paint over the color and sometimes it's not saturated enough to show up if you've already covered it with some dark color. So take a look at your painting. If there's anything else you need to change or fix, I just need to add a little bit of this to anchor the flower there. And this one as well, it just looks crazy and weird without it, like that. And I would like to add a little darkness to this. The darkest color I have, well, I've got brown and stuff, but I also have blue, and I'm thinking just a little bit of this for some high contrast. Maybe that's not dark enough, concentrated. Just a little bit here on some of these marks. Let's see what I want to do, just a little bit. Sometimes you can do that. So this is not a blue flower, but I'm just going to go over the spaces where we do have, you know, we have those red marks, the darker ones, but you can add in some sketchy little marks over that too. I'm not covering everything up. I just thought it might be fun to do that. So high contrast is a big thing that I love to do. So go with a really light value. The value is the lightness and the darkness of a color. Yeah, I just feel like she needs a little bit extra. So I'm just going to do little sketchy sketch marks. So if I'm doing a really light color and then a mid-tone, a medium color, and then a really dark one, I'm getting very high contrast in my painting. And that's something that I really love to do. So that's why we're adding that in today. And no need to blend this out, you know, just a few little dots here. But sometimes you feel like you need a little bit more. So I'm working pretty quickly. Let's kind of close in the gap here. Oh, this one. So that one looks very unique compared to some of her friends over here. If you want to do that with some of your other flowers, go for it. I'm kind of liking what's happening. And this one too, I'm going to do a little bit of that. So I'm using sort of the side of the brush. So I'm getting a lot of really nice rounded petal results. And that's nice. So I wasn't planning on doing this, but you don't always plan on what you're doing. You just do it. Okay. So I'm hoping that as you're trying this, this might be new for you. And maybe you're learning something like just letting go and trying new things. Not trying to be precious about something or perfect about it either. You know what? I'm not going to do line details on those two. I think those are good how they are. And for my yellow one, I do want to add one more touch by using this straight up, this orange, straight up. And I think with this, I'm just gonna go with a little bit of separating some of these petals out by just doing some little line details, easy peasy, and then just a few little dots and dashes just to bring it all together. Okay, and these guys, I'm just gonna leave them how they are. Thanks for painting with me today, guys. I hope this was fun, and I hope you learned a lot. And remember, more than anything, let go of that perfectionistic mindset. It's just anxiety. You don't need it in your life. We've got to take off the tape. That's like the best part. Perfectionism has no place in art, okay? Even though it creeps in. Trust me, I wouldn't talk about it. Oh, I'm peeling. See, look, I'm peeling my nail polish that I just did last night. All right, it's okay. Don't be perfect. You can have nails that have paint falling off. It is what it is, you guys. But it doesn't serve you. It's only causing you to want to create less. And it's taking away your confidence as well. I don't want that for you. I don't want that for you. You don't want that for you, honestly. Now, as we're taking off our tape, we are seeing a very cute border of our florals here. And I'm wanting to like make sure this is perfect here so that you don't see it crooked. It is what it is. Sometimes things will be. I hope you enjoyed thoroughly painting this with me today. If you'd like to try out these Paul Rubens paints, their floral collection, again, click the link in the description so you can get your own set. All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed learning about that number one thing to let go of your life. Perfectionism it's sort of a drug, and it's this evil, toxic thing too, because we can get addicted to it. We can get addicted to this idea that we need to push ourselves to be 100%. So remember the 80% rule. 80% of the time, you're shooting for the mark, and maybe you miss about 20%, and you don't let it stress you out, okay? I want to invite you to a webinar I'm having tomorrow, if this is Sunday. So you can click the link below for the link to that. We will be doing some watercolor florals and just painting together and enjoying talking a little bit more about how to take care of ourselves. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in the next tutorial.